As these three men got up here and talked to you about their testimonials of their business and why they brought their business to Keller, it just really warms my heart. And I was going to tell you that Keller's booming and Keller's a place to do business, but as I look out in front of everyone, I think you already know that. So I'm just going to give you some brief updates of what's going on in the city. In 2013, we had over 70 new businesses open their doors or expand in the city limits of Keller. In the last 16 months, the city of Keller has issued building permits for new commercial construction. This is just brand new commercial construction, not expanding, not anything along those lines. That's going to be equal to a construction value of over $33 million, which is going to add an additional 250,000 square feet of commercial space in our city. So this is really great news, and it continues to show you how progressive we are and how we're growing. I can't walk anywhere around the city or go to any restaurant or grocery store without somebody asking me, hey, what's going on with that corner? What's being built over there? You can drive through and definitely see the progress that we're making here in Keller. And just real fast, because our library director is here, I want to let you know that for the 4th consecutive year, our Keller Public Library has been awarded the Achievement of Library Excellence Award for the Texas Municipal Library Directors Association. Only 28 libraries of 565 in the state received this honor for 2013. So not only are we doing it on the business side, we're also doing good on the public side as well. So we're excited to have our library, and that's just one of our many multiple departments in Keller that's doing great things.
Hancock in my mind is true to who he is. You've heard me say it. I think he's 817. I think when you look up 817 in the dictionary, it has like Kelly Hancock. He was born at All Saints Hospital, and I take really note of that because so is I, so maybe there's big things in my future too. He and Robin have 3 beautiful children. I think they're really big Baylor Bear fans. But it is with just really deep pride I introduce to you Kelly Hancock, our great senator of the state.
You know, I am 817, but it's just because I spent my life here, and I don't really go into it a whole lot. One of the things that I like about the state of Texas and the representative republic that we have is it allows someone like me, which is just someone like you, to go down to Austin and have an office in a pretty heck of a nice building and represent you while we're there. And we do that mindful of really of who you are and who the community is that we're familiar with. I also have, I have to say, because I get abused all the time, it took me a while to even buy a maroon shirt, but I do have an Aggie. She's a sophomore down there, a little science man. As well as a Baylor, and interesting enough, I hadn't really said much. We leave Saturday to take my son to look at West Point. He's a junior at Portage Christian. Mama's not real pumped. I think she booked the trip in February because I cannot imagine how miserable it's going to be in New York in February. We'll see what happens there. It is a pleasure to be here, Melissa. You're way, way too kind. I'm just kind of an average Joe. My wife and I grew up, and I was born in Halton City, grew up in North Richland Hills. We actually went to kindergarten together at Hobby Horse Corral, which I can show you where that is. The house is still there. The kindergarten is not. So I did graduate from there, and Baylor barely. We're going to give you a little bit of information. The Senate District, if you don't know a little bit about the State Senate, there's 31 of us. We actually serve more of a population than your congressional congressmen that we send to D.C., and they seem to don't come back. We come back and live and work in the community and doing that, which we enjoy. So there's 31 of us. We represent roughly, the Senate District is 830,000 people. To give you a perspective of that, anybody know the population of Alaska? Okay, good. So you don't know if I'm telling you the truth. 750,000. No, it is true. It was in Juneau and looked, and kind of interesting so that you see the dynamics there and see how big Texas is, how big the growth is, and how dynamic it continues to be. I mean, people are moving here constantly. And the reason they're moving here is because we have been very, very successful, both in our policies and our recognition that the revenue from the state comes from businesses such as you, primarily that hire other individuals that go and buy houses and that create income, and that's really what keeps us driving as a state. And we've been on a pretty solid track of recognizing the importance of business and the pursuit of those businesses for several years now. What we're experiencing today is that we're seeing 12 of the 13 fastest growing states recognizing those policies as well, and now we find ourselves in a much more competitive battle with other states to attract and continue to bring people here. Since we do represent in our district, unlike in the Panhandle where it can be 51 counties, we represent the district all the way down to Joe Pool Lake, South Irving, which is everything south of Airport Freeway, and really the whole northeast corner of Tarrant County. So we have everything Westlake, don't have all of Arlington, we just have what's really important in Arlington, which is AT&T Stadium and the ballpark. So kind of like that, those aren't too bad. But we do want to show you a little bit. So as you recognize that we represent such a large contingency, right? And we recognize a very diverse. It's important for us that we understand the cities and the people that we represent. And so I want to start with that, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and some of the things as a campaign we do. I want to leave time at the end because I know it is very common for someone in politics to come in and give you a canned speech that tells you what they want to tell you, right? So that then I don't leave it up. The smart thing for me to do is not allow you to ask any questions, right? Then I don't have to give you any answers. And I can just tell you what I want to tell you, and you walk out going, well, that was a good lunch. So that's kind of where we're at. A couple of things here, very unique about Keller. Y'all are very unique in the numbers here. And part of the reason that you're having business success and you have 30 people join or 48 people join in 30 days, dyslexic a little bit. I'm not, that was just a joke. Is because of some of the dynamics we're going to show you. And these are dynamics that we use in the political scene, right, Gio? Political scene's become much more micro-targeting and micro-data. The more you drill down into the data, the more you know who you're going after, the more who you know who you want to see in the mail pieces to and who you want to stay home during voting, and we're going to find out some of that data, right? No sense knocking on the door reminding somebody to vote that's going to vote against you is kind of my thought. I want them to vote, just not that election. So if you look here, your household, I'm not kidding, this is true. You don't often hear us say we don't want all of you to vote, but the reality is we don't want all of you to vote. Just those that like us or love us. Well, you can just like us. Just don't hate us on that. And so here it kind of shows you the median income, and what we did is give you a comparison of the state. Now recognize that as we serve the different communities, and I jest about it a lot. Once I'm elected, I serve you whether you voted for me or not, right? Once I'm elected, I serve you whether you love me or hate me. It doesn't really matter. We were elected to serve, and we will represent you. And so nobody, look, you can be a straight ticket, the opposite party, and call my office, and you're going to get the same amount of respect and follow-up as anybody, as somebody that worked on our political campaign. Doug, don't call. But here it kind of shows you the income. Why is that important to business? Because these are places that have disposable income, right? They have the income to go eat at F&G's, which is an excellent place to eat. It's kind of our escape for my wife and I, where the two of us get to go spend a little time, just the two of us. The median household income, well, that's important because that's revenue for the city, right? As long as we're collecting in the school district, property taxes kind of drive that revenue. And so that's what's happening here. The dynamics here on completing college, those that have an associate degree, you know, 44.6% of the population have a degree, which that is a very, very high number. Now, from this slide, let me tell you, from the campaign situation, the other data that we even drill down into, especially now with social media, is that I can produce data that tells how many of you are on Twitter and Facebook. I can tell how many of you women are on Twitter and Facebook and where you go most of the time, and based on where you go most of the time, when you're looking on social media or anything else, those things that you like, those things that you don't like, know your tendencies in voting based on that. I get it's a little bit scary, but it is data that we use. It's some of that information, and it allows us to micro-target and know the individuals within a given community of where to go to. You've seen, and you've probably heard about people block walking. Well, yeah, you block walk. I'm not joking around. You're not knocking on every door. You're knocking on the doors that are going to give you a favorable response based on the information that you know about those households, who's voting, who's not, and you'll find out that why you can block walk and not knock on a whole lot of doors here when we get to some of the other slides. But this is data, and you have to understand that as a society changes and as the dynamics change with social media, a lot of that information is being used in the political areas in order to target, market, and focus and know who to send what messages to. For example, the city of Keller, I can tell you just something off the top of my head. We clearly know, y'all have a clear divide based on the railroad track. Do you know that? The political environment is very different in the west part of Keller than it is the east part of Keller. It's very interesting. Good luck with that, Mayor. Next. I get to deal with it on a macro view. Y'all get to deal with it on a micro view. What we're going to do is, and we're kind of moving around. I'm not chasing rabbits. I'm just kind of doing what Melissa told me to do. Here's some things we want you to talk about. And so, anytime I've learned it in my household, anytime a woman tells you, here's some things you need to talk about, then what are we going to do, guys?
Talk about it.
That's right. We're going to talk about it. So we're going to talk about the primary election and the general election. But I also want the primary coming up, your city elections coming up, but we're also going to address the general election in November and show you the dynamics there. And so here are the dates. Anybody need me to read them to you? Good, because that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Is it yours? That when somebody does a PowerPoint and they read me what's on the PowerPoint, I find it quite annoying. So we're not going to read this like this. See, I can read those. Y'all need help? Alright, there it is. We're talking photo ID, which is a major change this time in the voting. The primary is really the first big, quote big, voter turnout that we're going to have regarding voter ID. If none of this fits you, go on to the next one and we'll show you. All these are things that work. This is a photo ID. I don't know who that guy is, but it's a sample of somebody's, probably somebody's kid. In fact, it happened on Abbott's commercial. It comes out and I get this text from a friend of mine going, "That's my daughter." So, that's somebody's kid. But these are voter IDs. If you don't have any of this available, then you can fill out what's called a provisional ballot, and that would be what it sounds like, a provisional ballot that would go into counting depending on where the numbers fall out and everything else. A provisional ballot is a provisional ballot. So y'all should know we're done. Unless y'all want to read this again? I will tell you, being in the Senate and having the opportunity to serve you in the Senate for one term, there's very little position up here that I think is more valuable than where we are today. I'm doing that. In case you didn't know, going through a little bit of it, of course, U.S. Senate, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, that's our President of the Senate. We answer to them. In the state of Texas, really the Lieutenant Governor and your Speaker of the House, which is elected by the 150 members of the House. The Speaker gets elected just like every other House member, and then those 150 select who they want to lead their group. Those are really probably the two most powerful positions within the state. The Governor, the Governor can veto, and he can call us back into special, which we love it when he does that. But those are kind of the two big sticks that he has. Other than that, he really can't. He can't file legislation. He can't pass legislation. He can talk to us about it, but really, we have such big egos down there that really doesn't do him much good to try to act like he's bigger than we are. We all think we're bigger than everybody else is bigger, which we're not, because one day, which I'm reminded of every time my wife throws the laundry basket in front of me and says, "Fold these while you're watching TV," is one day I won't have a black chair on the Senate floor. You know, one day I'll just be coming to a business or chamber meeting and listening to somebody else talk, which ain't all bad, because you kind of get your life back a little bit on doing that. But we love what we do, but we recognize that We're not going to be there forever. And the minute we're not there, you're not going to ask me to speak. You may not ask me to speak again. Alright, so that's what you got. Railroad Commission. Anybody knows what the Railroad Commissioner does? No. That's energy, basically. And, you know, we've talked about, tells you what knuckleheads we are. We've talked about changing the name of that to represent what it actually does. Every session I've been in Austin, and we can't agree upon it. I don't understand. Everybody knows it's an energy commissioner really than a railroad commissioner, and we cannot pass that bill. Next one. There are just some things I can't explain. That's one of them. Here's what y'all have coming up. That's enough on them. Here's some numbers we want to give you. Historical turnout. November, y'all do a great job up in this area. And y'all may say, I don't really care. That's fine. I'm doing the slideshow. So just wait and we'll go through this and get to the Q&A. But I want to show you your historical turnouts. So the historical turnout's way up above state average. If you'll look, anybody, what happens in 4, 8, and 12? What are those? Right. What happens the rest of the time? That's state. And so that's where we are now. And so you see the turnout. A lot of that is just basically people seem to be engaged. And even the statewide. If you listen today, I listen, commercials are finally hitting. And so commercials hit, and it's all about federal issues for state candidates. It's what you are interested in, and what happens in an election cycle is we give you what you're interested in, because what we spend most of our time doing at a state level, you're going, I'm not interested in that, I'm interested in the Affordable Care Act. And so that's, interest goes up, turnout goes up. Go on to the next one. I'm going to let you look at this one for a little bit. This one I will read to you because you can see the picture and you may not read it. Registered voters is the blue line up top. And let me rephrase the red line. Those willing to get out and take advantage of the opportunity we have in this state and in this nation to actually select their representative to go down and represent them either in Austin and D.C. To me, this is sad. And the reason I showed you the first slides of, look, it's not that you can't afford to go, right? And it's not that you're doing a lot of home repair, because the houses here are pretty nice. You're just not going. You're not going. And so that's kind of, let's turn that off because that's really even bad. And I don't really be on the funk and, oh, it's so depressing. But I mean, these are realities. This room is 6.6%. Yeah. But that's not enough. You know, I get, and what happened, Gio knows this. It is amazing when I go to church and really the side of me that we don't tout and talk about. Yeah. My faith is huge with me. I've taught Sunday school for more years than I want to admit. I did quit teaching youth after 7 years. They'll wear you out. I teach adults, and they're actually more critical than the youth, which is more challenging. I'm doing that, but you know, I love that part of it. But it's amazing that I'll go to church and people say, "Oh, I voted for you." Dude, y'all need to understand. Geeks like me and Gio, we go through there after you say that and look at the printouts because that's public information, and come back to church the next Sunday and go, they may be coming to church, but they're alive. Don't lie in church. If I catch you in Walmart, you can say, "Hey, I voted for you." Don't do it in the church building. Bad things will happen. Don't do that. I'm just telling you. We know, we get the printout, and it's really easy to go search Mr. Smith. Going, "Mr. Smith, he lied to me. So that's kind of what we do. All right, I'm kind of done on that. When we get to the end, we get to the end. But really, the favorite time to me, because what will happen is when we do Q&A, there'll be about 30% of y'all that leave and go, I don't like that man. And then some of you will, but we're going to do Q&A because I think y'all find it more interesting than me standing up and making something up for the next. How long I'm talking? Am I done?
You're okay.
All right, we're all right. See, that's a good sign when somebody says, he's a politician, but he's okay. Y'all go ahead. Anybody questions or anything at all? The question is criminalizing identity theft. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things because it's something in Texas we don't talk about a whole lot. Identity theft is a real big issue. It is more of a federal issue. We've looked at some of that. And there are charges there. It is very, very difficult. If you've ever had it happen, you can call us. It is even hard for us to help somebody that's had their identity stolen. It is a huge, huge issue right now. And those identity thieves are utilizing that actually with the cartels in Mexico now is what we're finding. In fact, coupled with that is one of the biggest things that's occurring now within Medicaid fraud in the state of Texas is the cartels have figured out that the money's just as much, and maybe not as much, but the money's significant in Medicaid fraud, but the risks are a lot lower than actually selling drugs. And so we have significant Medicaid fraud being run by cartels where they'll come in and literally take over a physician group down the valley and say, we're doing your billing from now on. And they'll do that. So it's very interesting. On the flip side of that, let me tell you some of the things that we don't talk about in the state of Texas a whole lot is our judicial system. And the fact is we've actually closed down 2 prisons because of the flexibility and what we've done is given more local control, which I wish we'd learned that on a few other things, more local control to local judges to determine what is best. And what we've recognized is that sending someone to prison, all that does is allow them to befriend other prisoners that tend to disrupt society when they get out, and finding other means to dealing with criminal activity depending on that, but we leave it up to the local level. And what we've really seen happen is we're kind of an example to the rest of the U.S. on how to do this and deal with it, and we actually were able to reduce that portion of our budget as we're growing. So that you recognize how significant it is. Our population's growing, and we've reduced that part of our budget because of the way we're handling our criminal justice system at this point in time. We actually sold a prison to Dow in Freeport, so not only did we close it, we made money on it, and now Dow's going to expand their facility down in Freeport, which means we get more tax revenue off of it, both as a city and a state. I digress. Don't ask me a question because I'll go in 5 different directions. You know, it is a major issue, and what we kind of left it up to on the Common Core this time around was that we sent a very, very strong message on our dislike of it. And we didn't really want it mandated, but trying to maintain the flexibility at a local level. I think there's many of us that think that the best government is the closest government to doing that. But yet what we saw, the agreements that were made by those that were pushing Common Core during session did not follow up on what they agreed to once session was out. And so my guess is we'll come back and address that again. Would you... All the agreements that I heard, everything, oh yeah, we won't do that, yeah, we won't do that. And then we got out of Austin, and guess what, they did that. So it's a little disappointing when that happens, but not all that uncommon. Anybody else? Yeah, and water rights is a huge issue on it, and a huge issue for us to address as a state. Obviously, water is something we've got to take care of. What a lot of people don't recognize is Caddo Lake is the only natural lake in the state of Texas, and so what you're seeing now are fights that have been fought before, most of them not since the 1950s. And as we address it in a macro, and I'm not going to answer the specifics of those, but from a state standpoint, really where I stand on it is we have local water districts and water boards. And there are those within the state that want the state to kind of take over in Austin, and all those decisions made on water and legs and pipe and all that at a state level. What kind of ended up getting to this time is that there'll be some funding, thanks to the voters, funding available for the investment of infrastructure and development of our future water needs, but leaving that to your locally elected water boards to determine what's the best way to do that for your area. Getting into desal, probably it's not going to happen here, but right now, if you look, most of our water goes north to south, and it's just kind of the way the pipeline and the structure and everything. Desal would kind of change that from south to north, and there's a tremendous amount of infrastructure involved in that. In case, so that you know my business background, I'm in the chemical distribution business, which we deal with water treatment, oil and gas, personal care, all kinds of stuff. And then we have a retail store as well and some real estate. So water I get and understand, but there's a huge cost associated with it, which we're going to have to pay at some point. And really the funds that we made available were to pay for the upfront infrastructure. It's basically cash flow, like a bridge loan with the house. It's really all we've done. But we've kind of left that up to these regional water boards and water districts to come up with what suits them best and what's the best avenue for them. I do believe that eventually we'll see some of the South Texas move to desal. I'm done. Apparently.
You ever see a politician that could speak without a microphone? I would be remiss if I don't come up here for one moment. I want to thank you and Gio. You're both relatively new to our district, but I'll tell you how much we appreciate your representation down in Austin. You guys are doing an absolutely outstanding job, and we're blessed to have you both. Thank you.